Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the PDPreps podcast. Gus Morris, Keenan O'Doherty. We're not being joined today by Jordan Lattimore. He's currently en route to an assignment right now. So it's just back to the original two of us. But we got a good one for you this week. We are down to the final three teams still alive in the NCS playoffs. It's kind of the same characters that we had last year. Actually, it is all three of these teams: Windsor,
All
Cardinal
three.
Newman, St. Vincent are all returning to NCS championship games for the second straight year. At least those three. Actually, wait, third straight year for all three of these teams. Actually, now that I'm saying this, Windsor, Newman, St. Vincent are all your winners, and we'll be playing for NCS championship games this weekend. So we got you covered with previews coming up from the Friday, Saturday games. And before that, we'll take a look back at what happened in the semifinals last week. And we also did have one section championship game as well. But yeah, it was a rainy Friday night for most of us. I was out at Tamales watching Roseland Prep in a just torrential downpour out there in West County. But Keenan, you were closer to home. You were back over here locally over in Windsor for a super fun Division II semifinal game between two local teams. Windsor and Rancho Cotati squaring off for the second time this year. Rancho Cotati starting quarterback Jacob Pruitt playing healthy again against Windsor. Again last season, and the Windsor game was his first start. Kind of a tough spot to be thrown into. For a good quarterback. First matchup this year, Pruitt was hurt. Back this year for a big semifinal matchup. But Windsor hangs on to win. Tight game, tightest game that I think Windsor's had all season, or at least in the last 10 weeks. They've now won 10 in a row heading into the NCS championship game. But Windsor coming out on top 14-7 in our game of the week against Rancho Cotati. You were there, man. It looked like a close game, even all the way down to the end. Again, one score game. But tell us how it all went down for those of us who haven't read your story.
Yeah, this is the one time I actually do like turf because it was raining and it was raining hard. So thank goodness for Windsor's turf. It wasn't as messy or muddy as maybe your game was or some of the other games around the area. But yeah, like you said, completely different ball game than the first time around. Pruitt was back. He was as healthy as he's ever going to get this season, which is still pretty healthy and still as dangerous as ever. Rain pouring down. Honestly, coming into the game, I thought this was going to suit Rancho's run heavy attack perfectly. This rain and everything like that. But Windsor was able to throw it around when needed, which the rain is going to give any pass happy team some trouble for sure. The grip on the ball and everything like that, but they were able to throw around when needed. But Rancho. It's no secret that I think Rancho might have been the most injury plagued team in the county this year, or one of them. But now they're back. They were fully healthy, just about fully healthy. Had all those guys back that they missed in the first go round, which was a 35-7 Windsor win. And I think Coach Gary Cotaling said it best. They took the most talented team perhaps in the history of Sonoma County to the brink. That's what he said afterwards. It was 14-7. And the craziest thing is they had their shot at the end. For sure. With 9 minutes left, huge interception. Huge interception. That was actually Rancho's second interception of the day. Second interception of the day. It was all the way back by within their own 20 or something like that. I'm trying to pull up. Bear with me here. I'm trying to pull up that name of who got that interception. But yeah. So absolute. It was just an amazing game. It really was. This was the kind of game that people expected in the first go round. Sorry, Luke Morey came up with that interception. So shout out Luke Morey. It deflected off of Gunnar Erickson's hands. He was being guarded by Tyler Shake. Shake, I think how to say his name is. Sorry, again, the pronunciation woes doom us all here at the PD Preps podcast. But yeah, he came up. He was playing beautiful defense like Gunnar Erickson. I think it was either Erickson or Tyler who batted the ball away, and it landed right in the hands of Luke Morey, perfectly set there. So that gave the Rancho the ball back with like nine or so minutes left, and like Rancho has been doing, chewing the clock methodically, going all the way down. They had to convert two fourth downs on the way all the way down there. And they were either in the red zone or right outside of the red zone. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they were either one of those two places. Comes down to another fourth down, I believe 4th and 7, and Jacob Pruitt fumbles the snap in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter who recovers it because it's Windsor ball regardless. And that was with 56 seconds left on the clock. So that was it. But I mean, what a showing from Rancho. They are such a young team this year after losing perhaps the most talented senior class in school history. But yeah, going back to the beginning, I mean, Rancho's defense was playing out of their minds. Opening series for Windsor, Rancho had him on a fourth down, but Judson Anderson found Gunnar Erickson by the right pylon to open the scoring. Rancho immediately responded with a passing touchdown, Gus, not a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown. Jacob Pruitt to Giovanni Martinez. So that would knock things up at 7-7, and then ultimately the score that ended up being the key here was the Anderson brothers linking up again from 8 yards out, Judson to Hayden as they've done all season long. But yeah, since then it was an absolute defensive clinic. No offense could really get anything going besides that final drive from Rancho. So 14-7. I honestly think that even though, and Hoteling said this as well, that even though Rancho lost, I mean, you got to take so many wins from this because 14-7 against probably the consensus best team in the North Bay, the proven best team in the North Bay, team you lost to earlier in the season, 35-7. I mean, honestly, although you lost, there are so many positives you could take from this one.
Yeah, and it's I mean, like you kind of mentioned too, I mean, this was such a trying season for Rancho. I mean, it was always kind of a question mark of what they would look like this year, without, with Cy Badger-Wale graduating, with Ananias Walker, transferring out, with with Malik or the big lineman they had last year too.
Malik Cleveland.
Malik Cleveland, thank you. I knew it was Malik.
He was actually at that game too. He was actually
there you go. I do love, I mean, Rancho definitely has a bunch of alumni who always come back, so I do love seeing that. But I mean, again, lots of questions for Rancho this year, replacing all that talent, Jacob Pruitt, in line for a huge, senior year, and he gets banged up. A couple other guys, get banged up, Potu Hale, goes out for the year. A couple of these injuries, just don't go Rancho's way. And it's all of a sudden like they're struggling to make the playoffs. But like we kind of said the last couple of weeks, them as a 6 seed, such a tough out. I mean, like, especially kind of as they're kind of getting back to full health there. And yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, they took, the number one team in our area. I probably put maybe San Marin maybe above Windsor, but I mean, again, I think that'd be a super fun, like that'd be an awesome matchup, which we will get next year for the realignment. But yeah, Rancho taking, the top team in the county, down to the wire there. Certainly, again, no shame, nothing to hang your head about, for that season, especially kind of how they fought and rallied, towards the second half once they kind of started to get healthy. So great season for Rancho. I will be very curious to kind of how things progress next year with Rancho because, Pruitt will be graduating. I believe all of their running backs are graduating. I think is Gio Ortiz coming back next year? I don't think he is.
I think so. I think so.
We should know this off the top of our head, but we do not.
No. He is graduating.
So there you go. I mean,
Gio Martinez is not graduating.
Gio Martinez is coming back. That's right. I knew one of the Gios was a junior, but I mean, again, your three top offensive weapons. I mean, Potu, Pruitt, Ortiz, all graduating. I know that they have a pretty young line or a pretty young defense. Some really good linebackers in there who are all coming back. So be very curious, very curious to kind of what the identity of this team is next year, kind of without some of those big flashy, offensive, star power players. So great year for Rancho. I'll be very curious to kind of see how things progress here over the next few years. But yeah, I mean, again, a very, very solid stretch over the last couple of seasons for Rancho. I mean, back to back, times that they make it to the, Division II semifinals and give a higher seed a really close battle last year, obviously, against Campo and this year against Windsor. So, Division II is no joke. So Rancho definitely gave it a fight there down to the end. But great game. Windsor moving on to the D2 championships for the third, or to an NCS championship game for the third straight year. Up in D2 this year, there'll be, rematch actually of last year's game against El Cerrito coming up on Friday night. We'll talk about that more down here later. But moving on, I guess, over to the other big kind of game. I was obviously over at Rosen Prep, but we'll get to that one here in a second. But I think we should talk about Cardinal Newman first. Cardinal Newman 54-28 winners at 2-seed Las Lomas on Friday night. Division III semifinal game. Newman, I know there was a little bit of like, why did Newman not get the 2-seed in D3? Well, yeah, good question. Newman definitely made it.
Now it's an even better question.
Now it's an even better question. Yeah. I mean, again, Las Lomas beat Campo Lindo, obviously, in league play probably got them that 2-seed, but yeah, I mean, Newman is rolling right now. Coming off that Windsor loss a few weeks ago, they've just flexed their muscles and been playing honestly almost even better football the last couple of weeks. And I mean, I think there were some questions for Newman where it's like, all right, schedule's not super tough, but now that we're getting into playoffs, like there's no easy outs, and they've just been taking care of teams, like no problem. So all credit to Newman and all credit to Zach Hellman. I mean, the career year continues. Had a school record, almost 300 rushing yards earlier in the season, blew that out of the water last week. 381 on the ground, 4 touchdowns. I believe it was 4 touchdowns, right? 4 touchdowns, 27 carries. I mean, guys just having, I was looking back and I was mentioning this to you, before we started recording, but we definitely do need to give them so much credit this year. This might be one of the best individual seasons from a running back, ever in Sonoma County. We'd have to kind of go back, and there's, since we kind of took over at the PD, there's not a lot of like records that go super far back, unfortunately. So, it's kind of hard to track stuff like in the pre-internet era, or even honestly after that. But, I mean, on the year, he has 2,000, he has 2,300 rushing yards, 36 touchdowns. He has 10 games over 100 yards, 2 games without 100 yards. And one of those games, he had 98 yards on 5 carries in only one half of play. So, again, basically he has 1 game under 100 yards this year. He is just having an insane senior season. So, Zach Hellman just killing it this year. And again, best game he saved, for the biggest stage, I'd say. So, 4 touchdowns, 381 on the ground. I had mentioned last week, Las Lomas, probably a little susceptible, in the run defense category. Boy, was that ever true. Newman rushed for a season high 478 rushing yards on Friday. Outside of Holman, he had the 4 touchdowns, but Jamari Gentry also had a pair. Newman just steamrolled Las Lomas. It was close there for a bit. I think it was kind of back and forth, I think, for the opening half, and then Newman just kind of put their foot down on the pedal and kind of pulled away in the second half. So, Newman, I mean, again, it's, all season, I think, we were kind of talking about, how great their defense was, but the last couple of weeks, their offense too has just been lights out. I think that line has really kind of stepped up to play last couple of weeks. But big test coming up this week against Marin Catholic. Super fun matchup, very fun North Bay rivalry here, and we get one more chapter of it this week. But Keenan, anything on Newman though? But they've just 26 point winners on the road. I still think Newman was favored in this game. He had coming in as I think we all picked Newman. I think a lot of other I think a lot of other outlets all picked Newman, to win this game. So even going on the road as a higher seed or lower seed, however you want to say it, this is still Newman was probably the favorite in this game, but I don't think a 26 point favorite by any means.
No, yeah, and I think it's really funny how you said like Newman's line is like playing better again, which is like weird to think that they even had a blip this season because they've been playing so well. But yeah, I mean, last year, Newman, their semifinal came down to a last second field goal attempt or last second
Yeah.
extra point, whatever it was, Takalanis. This year, they leave absolutely no doubt at all, which is what these championship caliber teams need to do if they want to make it to that next level, to win that section title. Um, I think Newman is in a fantastic spot now. I really do, and obviously we'll talk about that here in a little bit after we get through some of the other games. But I think they're in a fantastic spot. Homan's going absolutely bananas. Um, even some of their skill players are getting in there. They're finally seeming to gel as one big unit rather than just Homan, and everyone tries to focus on Homan.
Mhm.
I think everyone else is getting involved, which is huge. Which I think they're in a huge spot. Um, but Gus, let's move on here. Um, Obviously you were at this one, Rosen University Prep. This one came down to the wire as well. But hey, Sonoma County's got an NCS championship. Gus, you were there. Talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, you were mentioning, liking being on a turf field for Friday night where, when it was dumping rain. I was not on a turf field. I blue collar roots over here. I went out to Tamales, Rosen, where Rosen University Prep beat John Sweat 18-12 in the 8-person Division II championship game. This is, I mean, again, we've talked about it all, like the last couple of weeks, last month or so. RUP is just the best story around right now. This is their 4th season with the football program. Last year they made the playoffs for the first time ever. They went 6-5 on the year. They had a total blowout loss against Branson. And then this year, unblemished record, I should say, perfect record to finish the season, because there was a loss in there that was flipped back to a forfeit win. But perfect season, 12-0 on the year. They beat John Sweat 18-12. Again, even more incredible is that this is the first NCS title in school history. RUP's, I think, was their first year was like 2004, and they've had
Yeah.
athletic teams since like 2006 or something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, again, they've had some very, very talented soccer teams, volleyball teams, some good basketball teams as well. But no school has done what they were able to do this year in capturing an NCS title. So huge, huge credit to RUP. Again, I know that when head coach DeJuan Miggins, he's actually I believe he was the stepfather of Elijah Qualls, who played in the NFL around here, went to Casa Grande. But DeJuan, coaching experience, with a ton of guys, John Antonio, Terrence Bell, Trent Herzog, he coached at St. Vincent for a while. And, this is kind of his first varsity, full head coaching job. And again, in just 3 years, essentially, building this program, he has them at the top. I mean, 12-0 year, NCS title. And they were good this year too. I mean, they
Yeah.
played freaking hard. They had some tough games. They weren't always, I'd say the most skilled or the best team, but damn did they play the hardest. And I'd say the same thing went for Friday night. It was again, it was already kind of wet when I got out there, but the field was just by the end of the game. I mean, you can go see, the photos on that I had with my story that Kent Porter took. But I mean, John Sweat came out in white uniforms, and by the end of the game, the uniforms were brown. It was like, I mean, it was basically like mud wrestling. By the end of the game, like no one had good traction. Balls were loose out everywhere. Like I think I counted 8 or 9 bad snaps in the first half alone, and then conditions even got worse in the second half. So, but yeah, first half it was 12-2 at halftime. Yeah, kind of a weird start to the game. I think John Sweat scored kind of early. RUP got a safety. I think John Sweat had snapped the ball back, out of the back of the end zone again. John Sweat kind of dealt with some snapping issues all game. But yeah, it was 6-2 after the first, and then John Sweat got a passing touchdown, kind of a long one, just before the half to make it 12-2.
Yeah.
And kind of a similar place where RUP had been in the previous week. They beat Cornerstone Christian, I think 44-30, and they were actually down, I think, by 8 at halftime. So kind of a similar spot as they were in last week. And once again, they made the halftime adjustments and came out, and kind of actually they blanked John Sweat in the second half. I mean, again, 12-2, at half, and then 18-12 was the final. But two rushing touchdowns for senior Noah Rowland in the second half. I think he had like 250 yards, both of the touchdowns for RUP, and then they also his second touchdown was with about 5.5 minutes left to give them their first lead of the game at 18-12. And then RUP got a stop, and then that was the game, kind of late, but just such a fun atmosphere. Actually, I should also mention too, RUP actually had two safeties. So it was I believe Roland scored pretty early, I think, in the third quarter to make it like 12-8, and then John Sweat actually again got a bad snap. The punter caught the ball. He stepped out of the back of the end zone. Another safety. So RUP had two safeties in the game, and then Roland had his final score with like 5.5 left to win the game essentially. But just such a fun atmosphere. I mean, again, even with the field like a total mess. There were like dozens of RUP family and friends out there and stuff. They had alumni who were back watching the game. Just a total celebration. On the field. This is something that again those the RUP team will remember forever too. I mean, this is like the dream season, 12-0 NCS title, fourth year ever playing football. I mean, again, for most of these kids, they've been playing football for like 2 years, 3 years max, most of them. So to do this soon into a program, just such a cool accomplishment. So big props to RUP. Adverse conditions, but they get it done. And yeah, we'll see where they go from here. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not quite sure how the divisions totally work in 8-person football. Maybe they go up to D1 next year. I'm not totally sure how that works, but just a great season. And like Megan said, too, it's like now the standard. This is the standard now. Like we are a championship program. Now we try to strive for this every year. So man, we'll see what happens. But man, great season for RUP. All the credit in the world to the Knights. Just such a fun story to cover this year. So, anything on this before we kind of get into our last couple of games?
No, let's move. I mean, congratulations, RUP, man. That's just amazing accomplishment. All right, let's head on to our next one. St. Vincent 45, Fortuna 21. We all talked about this last week. This was going to be an absolute battle, especially compared to how the first one went. But St. Vincent, I didn't leave any doubt in this one. I don't think. I mean, they just took it to Fortuna from the jump. Jack Davis with an absolute monster game. I mean, geez Louise. Six catches for 103 yards, 1 touchdown receiving, 4 carries, 25 yards, 2 TDs rushing. Casanovas, I believe he had one he had 1 passing TD, 17-24, 216 yards. Jack Stevenson, 4 carries, 53 yards, 1 TD, and then I know the defense had a couple interceptions as well, plus a fumble recovery touchdown as well by Joseph Edwards. So now, Gus, third straight NCS title game for St. Vincent, like you mentioned at the top of the pod, looking for their second in those 3 years. Reminder, they lost a shootout last year to Clear Lake, which I was covering that one, and that was probably one of those wild games I've ever covered. So definitely looking for their second in three years. But St. Vincent, I mean, just taking care of business like they do. They know that there's no messing about here. They gotta stay focused. So yeah, St. Vincent 45, Fortuna 21, Gus.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is we talked about with RUP, the standard has been raised, but I mean that's exactly what Trent Herzog has done over at St. Vincent, since he took over there. I mean, they've just gotten better and better each year. I mean, again, Division 7 NCS championship 2 years ago, back to the NCS division, back to the NCS title game the following year. They had that brutal loss to Clear Lake, and now they're up in a new division. Same story. So honestly, I mean, again, I think that just how they played this year, they might even be like the favorite, or like at least like a contender in Division 5 as well. Just with how with the talent they have, with how well they play. Sure. And then again, I know this Fortuna, the first Fortuna win that they had this season was only by 7 points, and Jack Davis had to score late, to even win that game. And so then, for St. Vincent to win this game by 24 points just shows kind of how far that they've come since that first meeting. So they've only gotten better as the season has gone on, and they should have a very, very good chance to win. Again, their second NCS title in the last 3 seasons, coming up this weekend. So, but like you said, nothing is guaranteed. I know it's a 1-3 matchup. It's going to be at Rancho Cotati High School. Same place though as last year where the Clear Lake
well, we said
so.
this last year too, yeah, and look what happened. So
exactly. So again, if it happens again, PD curse, we can take some of the blame for sure. But either way, St. Vincent is rolling, coming into this game. I'm sure they're going to come in with one, like you said too, like understanding about what happened last year, and knowing that hey, we can't take anyone lightly, and we got to stay focused, and but also again, they are coming off of a win like this is definitely a confidence inspiring boost kind of going in. So it should be a fun game Saturday. But yeah, St. Vincent just taking care of business like they have the last couple seasons. So it'll be fun to kind of see how it wraps up this weekend. So all right, moving on. Last couple of games, we're definitely lopsided results here, but over Division 5 semifinal, St. Bernard's, they're the 2 seed, routed Annaley 49-0. Not what we expected. I don't think not what many people expected. But again, field conditions here certainly played a factor. Tons of rain up there in Humboldt over the days leading up to this game. It was already kind of same situation as it was at Tamales, a bit of a wet field before it started. And then by the end of the game, just a complete mud pit. You can go and check out kind of some of the pictures and what it looked like at HumboldtSports.com. They had some photos from the game, but I sent them over to Keenan before we started here. And there wasn't a field left by the end of the game. It was like a complete pigsty.
No, there weren't any jerseys left either.
There's no jerseys. I mean, you couldn't even see. There was no grass on the field like left after the game. It was just complete mud. So, and unfortunately, that does not play well into what Annaley likes to do. On offense. I mean, again, they like to kind of spread the ball out, use their speed and athleticism on the outside. And when you literally cannot run, that causes some issues. So, and then vice versa, this also really played into St. Bernard's advantage, and their star running back, Wyatt Simone. He had a huge game, 307 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Just give him the ball up the gut. Nothing really, you can do about it, when again you have no footing or whatever on the field. So just a tough situation for Annaley to be in. I think we should give them a lot of credit for this year as well. I think the last couple of weeks, we kind of started to realize like, oh, hey, Annaley's actually having a pretty good season, kind of despite like maybe not having like, the best record. But I'd say for this Annaley team, while this is a disappointing way to go out, different field conditions, I think this is a much different game, but also as on their season as a whole, I think they've certainly overachieved this year. I mean, we definitely weren't expecting a whole lot out of them, I don't think. I mean, just with how much they had graduated last year, I mean, with their quarterback and all their skill guys and their running back and like a bunch of their line, like it's like, all right, what is this team going to be this year? And they make it back to an NCS semifinal game. So all things considered, a very good season, I'd say, for Annaley, and some very positive things I'd say to build on going forward. I know a lot of the guys are back or are coming back next year. Pretty young team this year, and like we said, weren't sure what to expect, but I think they certainly overachieved, I think, as far as a lot of people's expectations this year. So props to Annaley for a very strong season, I'd say.
Yeah, I honestly think they were a little overshadowed, obviously, by the Ranchos and the Windsors and the Newmans. They were kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but they were putting together a pretty strong season in their own front. And then, for me, I completely forgot that they were going to D5. So once we saw them in the D5 bracket, we're like, oh, wait a minute, they could possibly take a run at this thing. So big props to Annaley for their season there. And division NCS semifinal is definitely nothing to hang your hat about. So good season for you, Annaley. Like I said, I know that you guys are bringing a lot back, so hopefully keep up the momentum going forward.
Yep, and with that, we pivot to our final game. Another blowout over Division 4. Not a huge surprise here, I don't think, but top seeded San Marin beats Maria Carrillo 59-7, ends Carrillo's season at 6-6 overall. kind of a similar story, I'd say, to Annalee, but a Carrillo team we weren't quite sure what to make of this year. They had some impressive wins to start, a couple bad losses. We weren't really sure what to make of them all season, like we kind of said. But yeah, I mean, again, to beat Petaluma twice, take care of everybody else, as they should in the Redwood, beat St. Mary's by 17. A lot of things, you can kind of look back on and, feel good about for this career team. They had some really good players too. I mean, Wyatt Olson had a spectacular senior season at running back. Dominic Kayed, one of the best, maybe unsung, defensive ends, I'd say, in the area. I mean, again, I know that they have a lot of guys who are graduating this year, but
Cooper Bluestone's only a sophomore too, so
Cooper
he'll be
Bluestone's
back.
only a sophomore too, so he'll be back. I mean, so I think it's kind of cliche, but some good things to build on here. And again, I mean, the last couple of years, with Carrillo, it's like not quite sure what they're going to be. I know they've been banged up at times the last couple of seasons, so maybe they haven't quite achieved what they had hoped. But there is a bit of consistency there, with this program. I mean, year in, year out, they just they seem to produce some pretty competitive teams. I know a couple of years ago I think they only won like one game because they were playing up in the Oak or something like that. But I'd say that down seasons for Carrillo aren't like I wouldn't say that they're just few and far between. It seems like, and even the down seasons, it's like there are some lots of injury problems or something like that, or like one or two games like don't go your way. So all that being said, I'd say this this was a very successful season for Carrillo, and with the new league realignment next year, I think that they could be in position to be a pretty competitive team for the next couple of seasons. I'd say as far as they're in, I believe they're in that third division with teams like Annalee and St. Vincent, and that should be kind of fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, again, great season for Carrillo, but just kind of overmatched in this game. Not a huge surprise, I'd say. I mean, Cimarron's a back-to-back defending state champion. They won Division 5 NCS the last 2 years. I mean, again, the Cimarron team could probably be a competitor up in Division 2, and here they are in Division 4. So, I mean, again, Cimarron is certainly on track to compete again for a state title again this year. And they have, I mean, again, we've talked about best teams in North Bay, and I think Cimarron probably takes that that crown right now, just especially after that win over Marin Catholic, a few weeks ago. So Cimarron, again, all props to them. They're looking legit. 6 players scored touchdowns. Dom Grassi had a great game. Dom Grassi. I was thinking of his brother, who I actually covered when I was at the IJ, but great season for Cimarron. They're undefeated so far still, playing for their 3rd NCS title in a row. And Murray Carrillo heading home at 6-6, but I don't know, Keenan. I mean, we've said up and down season for Carrillo. Wasn't quite sure what to make of them all year. But yeah, I don't know. Can we make a decision right now of like what do we think of Carrillo this year? Because 6-6, I'd say is a pretty good way to end the season, all things considered.
No, I think so too. I think it's I mean, obviously a lot. I don't want to say this like because they just lost, but I would say it's the best outcome that they could have had in terms of their up and down season. Opening round playoff win, getting to the semifinals of NCS Division 4. 4?
For 4, yeah.
4, of NCS Division 4. And battling till the end. I think the biggest key for Carrillo this year was the fact that they still stayed healthy, which I think that was a huge win for them because last year they did not stay healthy at all. Well, healthier than last year because nothing can compare to last year.
Yeah, right.
No, nothing can compare to last year. So, I would say it's a pretty positive ending on a rather roller coaster up and down. Who knows what's going on season? So, yeah. All right, should we move on here, Gus? Keep in mind, folks, this may be a little bit shorter episode than normal because we're winding down here. We don't have that many teams left in it, and stuff like that. But let's go to our picks here. All right, last week we all were 5-1. Total playoff record so far. Gus, you're at 11-5. I'm at 13-3. Jordan Lattimore, he came back. He's now at 8-8. Let's see. Basically, we split We flip-flopped one game or another. So I got Rancho Cotati wrong. You guys got Windsor right. And then I got St. Bernard's right. You guys both got Annalee wrong. Everything else we picked the same. And they all won. All right, let's head on over to our predictions/previews for this week. Again, we got 3 NCS championship games on the docket, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday night, actually, rather. Make sure I'll say that because during the regular season, Saturday night games are like very hard to
Yeah,
find.
we don't have them very often. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get started here. D2, Gus, you will be there. Number 2 Windsor versus number 1 El Cerrito at Diablo Valley College Friday at 7 p.m. Rematch of last year's Division 3 NCS championship, which El Cerrito took. Could be a different ball game this year. Gus, we are all picking Windsor. Most talented team Windsor's probably had in the history of their school, but El Cerrito is nothing to be messed with. They are the 1 seed for a reason. Yeah, this could be very interesting.
I think so too. I mean, yeah, this is the third straight season that these guys are that these two teams are playing. 3 years ago in the first matchup, it was in the semifinals, and Windsor got up big, and then El Cerrito came back and almost won late. And then last year it was a reverse of that, where El Cerrito went up big. If you remember, Hayden Anderson did not play in the first half of that game. He was dealing with a stomach bug or something. Came back in the second half. And Windsor had a chance to win or take the lead in the final minute, and then El Cerrito, whose defense was one of the best in Northern California this year, got an interception to win the game late. But Windsor lost that game. I think it was 34-27 was the final score last year, and Windsor scored 20 points in the second half. And before that game, the most points El Cerrito had allowed in a game was 13 all season. So I mean, I remember last year covering that game, and all the Windsor players were just thinking, like, man, if we just had like 2 more minutes, I think that they would have won that game. And I mean, again, all of when the game ended, they had all the momentum. They were driving, they were within El Cerrito territory, and then just again one last late pick. I believe was for Kamani Jackson, who is back, and he's a 3-star wide receiver defensive back. Committed to Washington State. So he is having a crazy senior season, kind of a game breaker type guy. I believe he might have had 3 touchdowns, I think, and a pick 6 last week. I mean, El Cerrito has just been rolling over teams this year.
Yeah.
They I will say too, their one loss this season came against De La Salle, who's again, the best team in the North Coast section. And it was actually a previously unscheduled game. De La Salle had a team drop out last minute, and then El Cerrito stepped up to the challenge to play them. Well, lost 31-12, but I mean, stepping up and taking a challenge, like playing again, basically the best team in Northern California, or one of the best, it certainly says a lot about who you are as a program. So, yeah, I mean, again, but since then they've just been rolling through teams. I mean, after the De La Salle loss, they beat De Anza 56-0, they beat Salesian 34-0, and in the playoffs they've won by in 2 blowouts, 61-14 over Berkeley and 55-17 over Heritage. So really no close games. I'm sure all their starters are going to be very well rested for this game. Versus Windsor, who's kind of who's coming off one of their closest games of the year. Although it is kind of it's a bit of an interesting debate here, where Windsor is coming off of their closest game of the year, a win too. You learn a lot about yourself. You can dig deep. You can win those close games versus El Cerrito, where they're probably feeling like world beaters right now, where they're like, oh yeah, no one can touch us. We've killed everyone. Everyone that we played in the last year or in the last month. So yeah, this should be a very interesting game, and I am picking Windsor because I look at kind of how these two teams are built compared to last year, and I think Windsor's a better team than last year, and I think that El Cerrito is probably about the same as they were last year. Most of their line is back, their quarterback is back, he's having a great season. Kamani Jackson, again, like I said, 3-star wide receiver, Washington State commit. They have 2 very talented running backs. Micah Avery is one of them. He's getting some Division I looks, but they have a lot of guys back. They also graduated quite a few guys as well. I remember there was a kid McAdoo last year who really hurt them. He's graduated. So I'd say this El Cerrito team is probably very similar to what they were last year, while Windsor is probably better, like much better, I'd say, than they were last year. So I think this is going to be this is not going to be a game, I think, where one team goes up 20 points. I think this is going to be kind of, I think this could be pretty high scoring. I mean, both teams, can fill it up. They have the athletes on the outside that can do it. Windsor has so much depth, out wide. I mean, obviously Hayden Anderson, Ananias Walker, but I mean, I think that, El Cerrito is probably going to be trying to blanket those guys. And then you have guys like Joseph Campbell or Gunnar Erickson or Keenan McAllister who can step up in those kind of secondary roles. So I think Windsor's depth is really going to kind of be the big determining factor here, where if those kind of secondary guys can have big games, then I think Windsor has a very, very good, good shot to win this game. And again, same thing kind of with Hayden too, where it's like if Hayden, if El Cerrito doesn't, double him or triple him or whatever, and he could have a big game. So there's so many ways for, where Windsor can hurt El Cerrito in this game. So I think for all those reasons, I am going to go with Windsor, just because of how many weapons they have on the outside. And again, coming off of a close win, they can win those close, tight games against a good athletic team like Rancho Cotati that has some explosive athletes. So I'm picking Windsor. I think this will be a very, very fun game. Again, the last two have been awesome, and I think this one could be the best of the bunch. So excited for this game on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of piggybacking off some of your points here. I like the point you made, about how El Cerrito, maybe rested starters, not, blowing out teams, da 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 da. Meanwhile, Windsor's been played its like closest game all year. It'd be interesting to see how El Cerrito responds when Windsor comes out and punches him in the mouth, because I think that's what's going to happen. And when Windsor has you on your heels, that's when they're most dangerous. They're just going to keep coming. So I mean, for that reason, I think Windsor. I know the Windsor guys, after talking at the end of the Rancho game, they are very, very, very hungry to get this one back. There is no doubt about that, and I think that does play a factor into it, into this game as well. So I'm pumped like you are for this one. It should be a good one. Over in the East Bay. Deep East Bay actually, but Diablo Valley College, pretty good setting for it too. Nice little stadium. So, yeah, man, I think if Windsor wants to go far, this is probably going to be their toughest test in order to perhaps get that quote unquote state championship or whatever it may be. So I'm going. We're all going Windsor here. Jordan obviously is not with us, but he was able to send us a pick beforehand, so I'm sure he has his own reasons, but won't explain them today. All right, Gus, should we move on to the next one here? Over into our Division 3 NCS title game, number 3 Cardinal Newman, versus Marin Catholic. It's a 1 versus 3 matchup. Marin Catholic is the top seed. This will be at San Rafael High School on Saturday at 7 p.m. I'm going to be there for this one. And Gus, just judging off the past couple weeks and the last month or so, these teams have played for now the third NCS title in a row, I believe. If there's any time that Newman can get it done, I think this is the time. I think this is the year that they can get it done, and I think they will get it done. I mean, Homan has just been on fire. They've been using a lot of their skill guys a lot more these last couple weeks, which is huge. Their line has been coming back into form, which is weird to say because they're so good anyways. But I'm picking Newman here. I mean, Newman averages 41 points per game. Marin Catholic 38 points per game. Marin Catholic also hasn't looked like the number 1 seed that we're used to. Yeah. Although the final scores are 35-7 versus O'Dowd, 35-15 versus Tam, they certainly had a lot of trouble with both those teams, especially early on. So I'm going Newman here, man. You call it a homer pick, whatever you may call it, but I think Cardinal Newman gets back to the NCS title picture, and moves on to those regional games.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of build on some of your points there. Yeah, I mean, the last month of the season, MC has not looked like the number 1 seed, like you were kind of saying, and a bit more kind of on those couple of games. So this all kind of started, I guess, in the San Marin game which they lost 10-6, and I believe that was their first loss to a Marin team. I want to say in like almost 2 decades, like 15 years.
Yeah,
I
it is 2 decades.
like that.
2 decades.
Yeah. So first off, there's that. I mean, again, and credit to San Marin too. I mean, their program has just built itself into a monster the last couple of years, but and really kind of caught up to the standard that Marin Catholic set over down in Marin. But yeah, but since then, I mean, again, 10-6 loss, only 6 points, not great for an offense that has a 3-star guy who's going to be playing college football next year, and Charles Williams as the running back. 6 points is really kind of crazy to hold the Marin Catholic team too. But and then even since then, like you said, in the Bishop O'Dowd game, Bishop O'Dowd was a team that Marin Catholic had beat 52-0 earlier in the year, and it was 7-7 at halftime before they pulled away late. Last week against Tam, I think they beat Tam 35-14 or something like that in the regular season, another MCAL team. Well, MC only led 14-7, this time around. I mean, even late, I believe it was like 21-9, I want to say, like late in the second half. And MC had like a long third or fourth down situation and scored a 20-yard touchdown, and that essentially won them the game. But if they don't get that touchdown, MC has a chance to come back and make it a close game kind of late. So MC has not been playing great the last couple of weeks. A couple of interesting notes I've noticed too, but they started a new quarterback last week, senior Peter McCauley. He did play really well. He had 3 touchdown passes last week, but they've had a transfer from St. Ignatius. Isn't that? Oh, I know. You went to Stuart Hall. That's right. But he, I believe this kid has been their starting quarterback all season, and then they started a senior, in this NCS semifinal game. So, new quarterback stepping in like the biggest games of the season. Obviously, he performed one last week, but that's a bit of an interesting note. And then also too, I noticed that on the MCAL all league teams which have been announced, I didn't see Marin Catholic didn't have a single all league lineman this year, which is really interesting, knowing that they've produced some really. What's that?
Did they not have the lineman of the year? I thought they had the lineman of the year.
Oh, sorry, they did have the lineman of the year, but I'm looking at first team defense as far as defensive linemen.
Yeah,
they didn't have any of those. So yes, they might, lineman of the year, yes, but I mean, outside of that, really not much. It would look like. I mean, they had 2 first team offensive linemen. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting note, I'd say, for a Marin Catholic team that usually dominates, like all around. I mean, they usually have all the best linemen, all the best wide receivers, all the best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, San Marin, like we had said, have kind of caught that standard. So I've also heard too, just like, from a few people who have covered Marin Catholic this year, that they're down quite a bit of starters, especially on the defensive side. Like injuries are really kind of taking a toll on them this year. So banged up, I'd say is a good way to explain it. Trying to kind of find their identity again at this point of the year. I mean, again, starting a new quarterback, interesting move, but yeah, look, historically, I mean, this is a matchup that Marin Catholic has owned. I mean, MC is 6-1 in their last 7 games against Newman. Newman has the one win, I think it was 13-10 back in like 2016, I want to say 17, something like that. And that was, I believe, in the NCS title game. But yeah, I mean, this is their 3rd straight meeting in an NCS title game. Both teams are obviously up from D4 to D3 this year. This is their 5th meeting, I think, since 2015. And again, MC has won the last 2 pretty convincingly. I mean, 42-7 was the score the first year or 2 years ago, and then they won 48-22, and it wasn't even as close actually as the score indicates. MC went up big early, and then Newman got a couple late scores. But all of this goes back to your point. This is the best chance that I think Newman is going to have to win this game in the last couple of years. MC looks very vulnerable right now. Newman is playing lights out. They obviously, their offense has been rolling. I think looking also too kind of at the schedules of both these teams. I mean, I know that MC has a bit of a stronger rating than Newman does, but I think Newman's had more hard games, I'd say, than Marin Catholic has. I mean,
more adversity. Yeah,
I'd say so. I mean, like Rancho Cotati, I'd say was a very, very good win for them. Playing Windsor, obviously I know they lost, but like, facing off against a good team like that, that'll toughen you up quite a bit.
Vacaville, coming back against Vintage.
Yep, Vacaville, Vintage. I mean, again, those early season games, solid games and solid wins, for Newman all around. That's the same thing with Casa too. So I think Newman is more battle tested than Marin Catholic. I think Marin Catholic has a lot of questions, just up and down. I mean, like pretty much at all their positions. I think that they have a lot of things that they got to figure out heading into this game. So I know Jordan in our predictions, Jordan says Cardinal Newman by a lot.
He
I
did say
I
that.
don't I don't know. I mean, like I again, I'm picking Newman. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Newman wins this game by a couple scores. So especially the way that they're playing now. Um, and again, all that being said, it sounds like we're kind of discounting Marin Catholic. We're not. They're number one for a reason. They've had a great season.
Yeah.
They have a great team. They are a bit banged up right now, but I think that again they're still a very very good team and a very dangerous team, and Newman will still need to play its best game to win this because part of what makes Morgetta so good too is their depth. I mean, they run like 50 guys deep, like 2, 3 at most positions. Now again, some of those guys have had to step up this year with the injuries, but again, a lot of those 2, 3 guys could start for a lot of teams around here as well. So it's gonna be a battle. I mean, again, third time around, I know Newman wants this game really bad, and I think that there's a very good chance that they win it. So I am picking Newman in this game.
Yeah, yeah, but like you said, can never count out Mozzie, man. Can never count that guy out. But yep, all three of us are going Newman here. Jordan says Newman by a lot, so we'll see. All right, let's last NCS title game here, Gus. Let's get through it. D6, number 1 St. Vincent versus number 3 Salesian, at Rancho Cotati High School, Saturday at 7 p.m. Almost a year to the date where St. Vincent lost the NCS title game at Rancho Cotati. They come back to Rancho Cotati this year, so on a Saturday night. So we'll see, but we're still sticking with the Mustangs. I think they're all business right now, and I think that they're not fooling around whatsoever. Excuse me. So, but I mean, you could talk about this more a little bit, but Salesian comes in, and we were looking at this pre-recording, and they have some pretty good wins, and they're in the title game for a reason. But I think St. Vincent is I think St. Vincent has most of their guys back and are firing on all cylinders in these playoffs. So I'm taking St. Vincent.
Yeah,
Well,
Salesian.
so are you, but yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I'm taking
No,
St.
I'm all. Yeah, I think we're all picking local this week. I mean, I think we're all going Newman, St. Vincent, and Windsor to win. So the homer is certainly coming out. But again, I think all for good reasons.
Vincent.
Salesian coming to town. Last year they went 6-6. It was their first non-winning season since 2017. But they have been a small school powerhouse over the last decade. I mean, they've won 4 NCS titles since 2013. They won back to back, I guess, because there was no 2020 season. They went back to back in 2019 and 2021. And then they also went back to back in 13 and 14. So they have had some incredible teams over the years. Small school powerhouse, out there in Richmond. Yeah, they have produced some really, really good players, some Division I players. I think even an NFL player or two, I want to say. I know that they have, again, amazing athletes out there. They have a great basketball program. But yeah, I mean, again, to go 6-6 last year and then to come back 10-2 this year, and then with a very junior heavy team, kind of shows, how good they are. But looking at their season too, I mean, again, maybe some wins that you're kind of like, maybe not the most impressive. I mean, again, only beating St. Mary's, Albany by 4. They lost to Moreau Catholic. Although they did come back last week and beat Moreau Catholic in the semis. But their only loss this year, or their only 2 losses this year, again, one of them was to Moreau early in the season by 2 points. They came back and beat them last week. And they also lost to El Cerrito, who again is the number 2 team in Division 2, or they're sorry, the top team in Division 2, and again, one of the best teams in the Bay Area. So yeah, I mean, they've played maybe not the hardest of schedules, but they have some dudes. They've won all the games, that they have to. And yeah, they have a good physical defense. They're averaging 16 points a game allowed on defense, and they're putting up almost 40 on offense. So explosive team on offense, tight defensive team. But again, like you said, St. Vincent is kind of rolling right now. They're focused. They're locked in. They are probably going to avoid or do whatever they can to avoid what happened last year. And again, I think with this team that, a lot of these guys are back from last year's team. They know what last year felt like, and they don't want to feel that again. So I think St. Vincent in this one, they just have too much firepower. They're playing too well right now. Salesian will definitely be a tough out, but I just think St. Vincent is the better team at the end of the day. Yeah, and St. Vincent wins its second NCS title in the last 3 years, I'd say.
I think so too. We'll have coverage from all three of those games. We'll have someone at St. Vincent. I will be at Cardinal Newman. Gus Friday will be at Windsor, all the way over in East Bay. That wraps it up for our football coverage. But Gus, I know you wanted to talk about some other things, like the NCS cross country just happened this past weekend, I believe.
Yeah, sure. We can go into a couple things here. Yeah, we'll be having. I was at a quick turnaround on Saturday after I was out at football on Friday night, but I went out to Hayward High School for the NCS cross country championships. You know, we always have a couple kids who always perform well. There are a few teams too, but yeah, this year more of the same. Maria Carrillo boys and girls are qualified for state as teams. Montgomery girls are also going back as a team for the second straight year. Hannah Thompson, Montgomery, star, won her third straight NCS title. She'll be going for her third straight cross country title coming up this weekend at the state meet. Also Amory Lacefield and Sela Kittlestrom, the other two star junior runners for Montgomery. Those three finished three of the top four. I believe there was another girl who finished second, but then Sela and Amory came in third and fourth. So great seasons for them. I mean, again, they're coming back next year and they're going to be a force to reckon with, those three girls. But it should be really fun to see if Hannah can win her third straight state title, which would also be the fourth state title of her career. Which if she gets one this week, it'd be 3 in cross country and 1 in track and field. So, I mean, her career has been incredible to follow, and it's only getting better. So, but yeah, outside of that. I should also mention too, the conditions were brutal. I mean, like we kind of said on Friday, after all the rain, I mean, imagine a dirt field or a dirt track that gets run on by over 1,000 runners throughout a day. I mean, with rain included in there, I mean, it was just brutal. So especially by the end of the day, the last couple races, the last few divisions that ran, I remember I talked to Riley Kreutz, the junior from Petaluma who qualified in Division 4 girls. That was the last race of the day, was the D4 girls, and she was like, that was miserable. Like, it was. There was also a guy from Maria Carrillo who I was asking about the race, and he was like, he's like, yeah, I remember watching like these, a couple of kids trying to come around a turn, and it was so muddy that they were running in place but running off the track because they were sliding. That was how bad
Oh my gosh.
was how, like, people were falling left and right. I mean, it was brutal conditions. So any of the kids that qualified, it was a very strategic race. It was not conditions for fast times. It was all about placing, all about kind of strategy and how you raced your race.
Yeah.
So again, so outside of Monty Carrillo, the Monty girls, we also had Stella Finley, sophomore from Annalee, qualified in Division 3 as an individual, Riley Kreutz in Division 4 as an individual. We had Josie Hill, a freshman from technology. Probably my favorite interview. She was so cute, just like, oh my God, I'm so excited to go to state. It was awesome. I love to see stuff like that happen. So
yeah,
she was great going to state in her first year running cross country. And then also Athena Ryan from Sonoma Academy also qualified in Division 5, but he actually ended up dropping out, which actually got another local into the state meet. So Gwen Brockett from Cardinal Newman, who was originally the first individual who did not make the cut, she has made the cut because Ryan has elected not to go to state. So yeah, 4 individual girls, locally, and then as for on the boys side, outside of Carrillo boys team, we also had Xavier Surgeon, sophomore from Windsor. He qualified in Division 3. And then Caden Anderson, a junior from Healdsburg, qualified in Division 5. So
Healdsburg, well, one of your guys, huh?
Caden's been awesome, man. He's a super fun kid to cover, great kid to talk to. 6 individuals, 3 teams will be lining up. This Saturday down in Fresno. I was able to go down last year. Don't think I'll be able to go down this year, unfortunately, but we'll be covering it all from afar up here. And yeah, we'll see if Hannah Thompson can bring home her third straight cross country title, which will be awesome to see. So, yeah. Well, that is my report on cross country. Keenan, I know that you were doing some NCS or some tennis stuff last week. I guess we'll touch on that real quick, and then send everyone on their way.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting the way they did this because it was supposed to start last Monday and then go Monday, Tuesday, but of course the weather did not cooperate whatsoever. So played
Hmm.
the first two matches on Monday and then finished it off on Thursday. Montgomery's Caroline Beard was the number two seed in the girls singles, and she cruised through the first day pretty easily, and then ended up making the NCS championship match in singles, where she ended up losing to Montana Parkinson Leubold from Amador Valley for the second straight year. Um, yeah, it was a fantastic match, but it was at La Cantera. Lots of pressure were on Caroline because it was at La Cantera, the court she grew up at in Santa Rosa, and things like that. But credit to Caroline Beard for an amazing season, 2 years in a row now, where she hasn't lost a single game in league play. Two years ago, she was NCS championship. She won the NCS championship with her sister, um, for the doubles. So she's had a tremendous career. Probably one of the in terms of results, probably one of the best Montgomery athletes we've ever seen, especially easily the best on the tennis court.
Yeah.
So she ends her career as certainly one of the best. That elusive NCS singles title just could not get it. Parkinson Leubold is a really good player from Amador Valley, and the NBL's doubles team, Annie Lee and Caroline Graham from Maria Carrillo, ended up losing in the first round on Monday, so their season ended then. But Maria Carrillo, obviously, still as far as teams wise, probably the strongest NBL team. That they won the NBL championship as well. So tennis is over and done with. Volleyball was over and done with like a weeks ago. So like we said, Gus, we're whittling down the fall sports as the winter sports start ramping up. Basketball's already started playing some games, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's that time of year, man.
Certainly is, and yeah, we're gonna start to get the ball rolling on some winter sports preview stuff here this week and next. Again, it's happy Thanksgiving to everyone too. This week try to get some work done this week because I know this is like the number one slack off week of the entire year. I'd say this and Christmas. So yeah, we'll be grinding away. Again, we're working, Friday, Saturday, we have football games, we'll be starting to again, get some basketball and soccer preview stuff rolling. We already have tournaments starting up next weekend. We got foundation games, we got scrimmages, we got, regular season games already taking place. So, yep, that time of year where we're just kind of getting that crossover, from one sport to the next. So, but yeah, we'll have, for everyone watching, we'll have you covered, with all aspects of, the NFL sports, winter sports coming up. And yeah, just a fun time of year. Excited that we still have a couple football teams going this late. So it is always an honor to, be practicing on Thanksgiving and all the good stuff. It's also, an honor to be covering these teams, while they're still doing this. So, excited to see how everything plays out. Fingers crossed. We do get, a local team, making it, in the NorCals, with a chance to play for a state title game. So, um,
Absolutely.
we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in this week. Again, shorter pod, probably going to be pretty short. The next couple ones coming up, just because again, we're getting down to the final couple teams you're playing. But yeah, we'll see how things play out this weekend. But Keenan, any last thoughts?
Nope. I'm just happy we get Gus for a full winter sports season coming up too.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. I will be around.
I hope you're right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, viewing, listening, however you consume this content, and we'll see you guys next week.